During last week's Sony showcase, we got plenty of surprises. We found out that Spider-Man 2 is in development and Venom is the bad guy. But I would say the biggest surprise of them all is that Insomniac Games is developing a brand new Wolverine game. Granted, we only saw about a minute-long real teaser trailer with not much action, but this game is coming and I am so amped up and so pumped. In this video, I'm going to give you guys a few of my predictions, a few of my wants for what I really love for this game to turn into. It's not much more to say than grab your favorite snack. Don't forget to sub. Also hit that like button. Hit that like button. Helps a little channel like mine. And guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. And here we go. Alright, let's get right into this video, and I really need to start with the developer. Insomniac Games is amazing. They're probably my favorite PlayStation developer currently. Their last few games have been Spider-Man and Ratchet & Clank and Miles Morales. All those games are great, but they're more skewed towards a PG audience, more family fun. But Wolverine, Logan, is definitely more of a mature, more of an R-rated type of character. He has claws, and what happens when claws go into people is a lot of blood. That's kind of what Wolverine is all about. So I'm really hoping that Insomniac Games kind of skews more mature with this title. And, it doesn't need to be Ghost of Tsushima, people getting their arms and legs cut off. But I definitely want to see some blood, a little bit of gore, and more of a mature adult story with some, people getting killed. People actually getting murdered. I think in Spider-Man and in Ratchet & Clank, you don't see too many people get murdered. But I think that a mature rating for Wolverine would definitely separate it from all the other games that Insomniac Studios had ever made, and that could be a really good thing, especially when you're dealing with a character like Wolverine. Logan and Wolverine is such a fan favorite, and he's one of my favorite superheroes of all time too, because he's that hero, but he's that edge, so he's kind of like that anti-hero. And when I was doing research on this video, I couldn't believe how many video games Wolverine has actually showed up in. I remember back in the day playing X-Men for the Sega Genesis and really loving it, and then flash forward, he's been in like 10-15 games, and most recently he had his own game called X-Men Origins. That's what we're seeing a lot of footage for this video right now, and that game actually got some good reviews and people really seem to like it. I mean, he's been in X-Men Legends games, he's had his own standalone games on basically every single system ever made, but I think people say that if, his own standalone game like Origins was pretty good, it was in the right direction, but that was almost 12 years ago, and there has been another Wolverine game, so I'm really excited to see what this new game is all about, especially X-Men Origins for Wolverine. That was a tie-in to the movie, and those usually aren't the greatest, so I'm excited to see a new Logan Wolverine game where, they can create their story and go in any direction that they want. And when it comes to story, I think the best way to really introduce Wolverine to this new generation is an origin story. Kind of tell the story, of how he was born and how he got his superpowers and how he got the adamantium infused into his bones. And then you kind of make it a revenge story as well. I'd really love this new Wolverine game to be very, very heavy on story and narrative. I want it to be very cinematic as well. So I'm putting that all into account when I'm talking about the story and also the gameplay. And for me personally, I don't think this should be an open world game at all. I know Spider-Man games, you have all of New York City to swing around, but Wolverine doesn't really swing. He kind of runs and kind of hops. So this could kind of be a more linear game. Granted, maybe it's kind of like wide linear or whatever they like to call games. Something like The Last of Us Part 2 or Uncharted Lost Legacy, where maybe it's go from point A to point B, but there's a lot of different things to explore on your way. Maybe there's a lot of different side missions for different mutants that you could kind of do if you want, or you could just go from story beat to story beat to story beat. But either way, I kind of think I would like this game to be more linear than other Insomniac games. Just think about how Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart did it. That game had really big levels, but it was pretty linear, and that's what I think would be perfect for this game. I mean, considering that Insomniac Studios is also making Spider-Man Part 2, and that game is definitely going to be open world, I think it would be cool to kind of narrow this down a little bit and make it a little bit more linear, but with a lot of exploration as well. Insomniac Studios is also known for all its gadgets or upgrades for its characters. And you know, Wolverine kind of upgrades a little bit, but he kind of just has claws. It's not like he gets like all these new moves. But you know, they could add a few things, or maybe they could do a little bit of an RPG where he has a bunch of base powers and you could just pick which one of those get improved as you go. Another thing that Insomniac is really known for is costumes. I mean, if you played Spider-Man or Miles Morales or even Ratchet & Clank, there are dozens of costumes. So bring that to Wolverine. I mean, I don't really care what they do for the costumes, but they better bring that old school yellow and blue costume from the old school cartoon from the 90s. That's just when I think of Wolverine. That's what I think of, and I would really just bug out if I could play most of the game with that old school costume. It would just be so freaking cool. Now, in this new Wolverine game, Wolverine won't be alone. I'm sure he'll be in a universe with a lot of other mutants. I mean, you kind of forget that X-Men is a part of Marvel, and Marvel has all of these characters that you could choose from. For this game in particular, I would probably stick to those X-Men core characters, like maybe Cyclops or Professor X, you know, or maybe there's a lot of other characters or bad guys that Wolverine could fight, like the Blob. I mean, you gotta go Sabretooth. I mean, you freaking gotta go Sabretooth, because he is the kind of main arch villain for Wolverine. But if I had to pick the big bad for this game, I would definitely go Dr. Sinister. Just look at this guy. He is as freaking creepy as it comes. His main powers are telepathy and just super strength. He's a character that has really never been portrayed on TV, in the movies, so it'll just be cool to get a fresh new bad guy. Someone we haven't seen before. I love Magneto, but he's been around the block at this point, so I think Dr. Sinister would be something fresh. And we all know that, you know, Insomniac Games loves to find those new characters, or those characters you don't really think of, you know, to make their games seem a little different and stand apart. I mean, when I close my eyes and think of Wolverine, I see Hugh Jackman, but I think Insomniac Studios will do it right. Just like what they did with Spider-Man. You don't close your eyes or see Tobey Maguire or Tom Holland. When you close your eyes and think of Spider-Man the video game, you think of Peter Parker from that video game. Insomniac Studios are so talented that I think they'll make this new Wolverine look freaking amazing. You may or may not have already known this, but if you zoom in right here, you could see this license plate basically says Hulk on it. And that's because Wolverine debuted in X-Men 181 and he fought the Hulk. So just imagine if maybe there's a misunderstanding and Wolverine needs to fight the Hulk in some city. That could just be a really great, maybe a main subquest, maybe it's a part of the main story. But there's just so many great characters in the Marvel Universe that I would love to see go up against Logan himself. And then we're talking about who could go up against Logan. I mean, Insomniac Games is making Spider-Man game, so there might be an Insomniac extended universe and we could see some Spider-Man in the Wolverine game or Wolverine in the Insomniac game. Let's just say there's a ton of options, and it seems like Insomniac has the, you know, the rights and the power to do whatever they choose. So it could get really cool. I mean, lastly, let's kind of talk about the release date. Insomniac Studio gave us no release date, and they basically said this game was very early in development. The one piece of information Insomniac did give us is telling us that Spider-Man Part 2 is coming out in the year 2023, and that's could be more than 2 years from now if it comes out holiday. I personally think Wolverine is going to come out after that game, so I'm kind of hoping that's 2024 and not further than that. I mean, I'm 37 right now. I don't want to be playing this game when I'm like 45 years old. So I hope it comes out, you know, either before Spider-Man or right after Spider-Man. But guys, what do you think? What predictions do you have for this new Wolverine game? Do you think it's going to be coming out, you know, in the next few years? Do you like my predictions, or do you think they're way off? Let me know right down below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said before, if you're new to my channel, definitely think about subscribing and hitting that like button. And, you know, so next time I come out with a new video, you'll get it in your inbox right away. Guys, again, thank you. I'm Turbo Jesse. I'll see you on the flip side.